We are now just 4 days away from the murders. August 9th is also the day this ominous image was posted to Facebook with the words, "I don't know what to think about this."
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Well, fate seemed to be reaching out to Shannan, asking her to stop and to think. So what was she thinking about? Well, let's have a look at page 29 of the 50-page phone data review. Shannan told Sarah that Watts had agreed to go away next weekend, just us. Shannan said a friend has agreed to watch the kids. Now, what's important to note is it's not the following weekend, it's the weekend after. So Shannan has got other plans, other priorities for the very next weekend. Then at 13:44, Shannan asked Watts, "Why did you cancel your Facebook account?" He did not respond. That's also a critical issue. Why did she not follow that up? Why did she not make sure? 15:07, Shannan asked Watts, "Can you be there Monday to drop Bella off with me for her first day of kindergarten?" And that's in a way testing him, trying to find out, are you still invested in our family? And so he says, I can make that happen. 15:45, Shannan received a confirmation from Amazon that a book titled Hold Me Tight, 7 Conversations for a Lifetime of Love would be delivered on August 10th, 2018. In other words, that book would arrive after she'd left. And so this is how Shannan thinks she can sort out these serious problems in a relationship. Write a love letter and order a book. That's what she would also spend the day doing, writing a love letter. 1937, Watts told Troy McCoy that he was taking tomorrow off and added, "I will meet up with you for the fire stick sometime tomorrow if that's cool." McCoy said that was fine. 2017 hours. Shannan told Addie that she was talking with Watts presently, apparently texting at the same time. Addie asked what the gender of their child is, and Shannan said, "If I tell you, you can't tell anyone. He wants to announce it Monday." August 13, 2018. Shannan added, "She's trying to be accommodating. He's talking and kind of being Chris, but is still very distant." 2045, Watts logged into Instagram. 2107, Watts searched Google for prices of an Audi Q7. I'm pretty sure Watts checked Instagram to figure out, is anything going on there? Is anything being communicated there? Probably by Shannan. 2112 hours. Shannan told Utoft and Cassie, Chris wants to move to Brighton. Shannan announced their son will be named Nico Lee Watts. Shannan cautioned that they were not going to tell anyone the name until Monday and to keep this a secret. Remember, by Monday, the family had been murdered. Well, that happened on Monday. Shannan told the woman the conversation she had with Watts this evening has been the best talk yet. 22:27 hours. Sarah Nudd asked how the conversation with Watts went. Shannan replied, "Oh my God, much better. We talked. He told me he loved me back. Still cold, but not as cold. He even kissed me before going to sleep in the basement," which is the second kiss since picking him up from the airport. So bear in mind, although everything is all hunky-dory, Chris Watts still goes to sleep in the basement. He's not sleeping in the same bed even as Shannan. And yet Shannan feels like everything has been sorted out. Shannan added, "I want to tell you the gender, but you have to keep it a secret. He wants to wait till I'm back to tell everyone. So Monday." He agreed to counseling. He agreed to read the book I ordered coming tomorrow and write me a letter expressing, his love for her. We are going away next weekend, just us. Do you mind if I offer a criticism of Shannan? And if I do that, is that victim blaming? Is it okay if I offer a suggestion here just in terms of the timeline? And that is, shouldn't Shannan at this point have been thinking more critically about what is going on? Isn't her husband telling her exactly what she wants to hear so that she'll just go away the weekend so that he can be with his mistress again this weekend? Shouldn't Shannan have checked his phone and been a lot more circumspect in what is going on? Because he's just told he wants a divorce, he doesn't want the baby, and now suddenly everything's fine again. Is that fair, or do you think I'm being really excessive in that criticism? Now, before we get to the rest of this analysis, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you want to get alerts to the next videos in this series, hit the notification bell. If you're really enjoying this coverage, you can get the extended version, the scripts for these episodes, but in an additional analysis on Patreon. Also, if you want to show your appreciation for this analysis, please do hit the thanks button, and let's get started. What do I want to achieve by doing this series is really to help you in your relationship think more critical about it so that it's genuine, so that what's going on is real. And so we are now going to think critically about this part of the timeline. So this selfie would be Shannan's second last post before her death. Look closely at this final self-portrait. Went to bed at 2 a.m., up at 5:15 a.m., 2 loads of laundry, dusted the whole house, cleaned out fridge and pantry and restocked. 2 grocery stores with kids, Celeste doctor appointment, emptied 7 suitcases, 3 backpacks and put them away. Fed kids 1,000,000 times. We all showered. We know this is a win. Went through 6 weeks of mail, washed kitchen floor, cleaned up kids' disaster, repacked my suitcase for Arizona this Friday. They literally said, we're going to bed, and put themselves to bed. Rain machines on and all. They are obviously exhausted from traveling and playing. I'm over here knocking everything out and it's only noon. The old me would live out of a suitcase for 1 to 2 weeks till it was empty again. All while 4 months prego. Loved my Thrive experience. Hashtag doctor approved. But while Shannan's loving her Thrive experience, she's actually facing a growing catastrophe at home. Her husband wants an abortion. She thinks he's cheating on her, and he is. He won't have sex with her, and they're up to their eyeballs in serious debt. Do you agree that the last thing she can afford to be doing right now is traveling anywhere else? And so in the midst of this, Shannan's priority is to hold a gender reveal. Now, over the years, while covering this case, I've heard all of the various theories and permutations of theories, and one of the most persistent is that Kessinger knew all along that Shannan was pregnant. I suspect that she figured this out sometime during her relationship, and when she questioned Watts about it, he lied to her, he manipulated her. And with Shannan out of state for several weeks, it was actually easier to believe that that was the case. You know, that Shannan was pursuing some other man and some other relationship, because why on earth would a mother take her kids and be somewhere else for weeks on end? But it was also what Kessinger wanted to believe, so she also needed to think more critically about what was going on. Now, I realize this explanation makes Kessinger less evil than many out there wanted to be, but it really is the explanation that makes the most sense. I think people confuse their own levels of social media activity and looking on other people's profiles, thinking everyone else is the same. Kessinger didn't even have a Facebook account. She just wasn't really that type of person. And I think that's partially why Watts liked her. I'm not saying she didn't look on Shannan's Facebook, but I think that in combination with what he told her made her believe what she believed. Now, if you examine the timeline dispassionately, you see the murders happen just as the gender reveal was about to happen. In fact, on the same day. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think there's a connection, because it's the one factor, the biggest factor, that could and should torpedo a genuine love relationship. Well, that is finding out that your partner isn't as separated or divorced as they've been telling you. They haven't made plans. Things aren't underway, not nearly. You know, at that point, Chris Watts really wasn't separated from Shannan at all. This suggests to me that it's not a question of whether Kessinger knew about the pregnancy, but did she know, A, that Watts was the father because he would be present and performing in that gender reveal, and then Kessinger would know for sure the true situation. I mean, if this gender reveal was done, and obviously it would be posted onto Facebook, and what would happen then? She would get cold feet, and he knew it. And then B, the gender reveal would also be a kind of symbolic message that all was fine with the Watts family, that they were still together, and that would also be at odds with the lies Watts had been telling his mistress, and so that would give her cold feet as well. I think there's an additional dimension where if Shannan suspected there's a mistress out there, Shannan probably suspected that mistress was watching her social media, and this gender reveal would be a way of nixing her interest as well. Remember, the two biggest moves Watts made prior to the murders were attempting to murder the baby, and he's about to do that again, and then murdering his Facebook account. The only way to shut down Shannan's was to shut her down, and he did that really at the last moment. Why did Shannan make a U-turn just as she was about to figure out that he was having an affair? Well, partly due to his gaslighting. It may be that when Shannan went through the 6 weeks of mail, she saw or remembered the summons from the Wyndham Hill housing estate and also reassessed reality. There was no way she was going to survive as a single parent with 3 kids in Colorado. She was going to have to work with him. She needed to find a way to ease Watts back into the idea of being a dad, father, and most important, provider for her and the kids. And I think this change in her approach also got Watts to think about manipulating her in more subtle ways as well. It may also be that Watts was reassured that Shannan was at last seeing the light in terms of their finances and now was prepared to listen to the idea at least of moving and downsizing. Clearly, August 9th in the timeline feels like there's some mutual reassurance, but is it real? Was it sustainable? Was it authentic? This reassurance prompted a U-turn possibly in Shannan's attitude and his attitude. It was temporary, to be sure, but both seemed to have second thoughts about everything. It was time, she realized, to make an effort to get her husband back and just sort everything out. But it was also time to renew her efforts and commitment to thrive. So the money issue was, in a way, I think what made her think, I need to attend this business conference. Shannan was so confident in getting him back on board that the next day she was on to her next priority, the business trip to Arizona. She felt so justified that she'd done enough. She just flew to Arizona as scheduled anyway. But this, as we know, was a fatal miscalculation. If Shannan thought a renewed focus on Thrive was going to get them out of their financial mess, she was literally dead wrong. Shannan didn't know that this was the worst possible decision under the circumstances because it wouldn't solve their financial woes, it wouldn't solve their marital woes. Further, by leaving when she did, she would leave her children vulnerable. Also, while Shannan was away, her husband had actually the opportunity to murder their children. And of course, by leaving when she did, she made herself vulnerable. Because, when she returned home very late from that trip, she was the most vulnerable she'd ever been. Coming back to that final selfie, we see Shannan in her kitchen, apparently healthy, apparently happy, back home again. She's thriving. But the picture we know now wasn't true or wasn't real. Is Shannan really happy here? Her husband is wanting an abortion, wanting a divorce, and she suspects he is cheating on her, and he is. So do you think the smile is a genuine smile or a fake smile? And so I think part of what this addresses is this whole pageantry on social media, that you can get so caught up in it that you really lose track of your real life and the real world. Look at her slightly watery eyes. Look at what the point of the picture is all about. Her varnished nails point to the Thrive patch below her neck. Should that really be the priority right now? She's about to travel again to Arizona for a Thrive session. Do you agree that leaving Watts alone for 5 weeks was a mistake? But now she's leaving him again, this time knowing that their marriage is in serious peril. Does she really think, just like that, everything's been sorted out? Do you mind if I offer gentle criticism here? If Shannan wasn't so distracted and preoccupied with the magical thinking, the whole MLM maelstrom, would this tragedy have happened? If her finger and her focus was pointing somewhere else, anywhere else really than to her MLM concerns, would this have happened? So I am suggesting here that if Shannan didn't leave on that final trip, I'm not sure if Watts would have found the game or the guts or whatever you want to call it to do the dastardly thing that he did. But of course, while Shannan was away, Watts got to get on the Kessinger roller coaster one more time, and that seems to have sealed it for him. He definitely wanted her, and he definitely wasn't going to lose this. And so what was Watts up to at the end of that night on August 9th? Well, have a look. 2300 hours, he's in the basement, he's in the bed by himself, transferring images of Kessinger, some semi-nude, into his secret calculator application. And that, I think, at the end of the day, is the bottom line when it comes to relationships. And the test for whether they're real or not is, are you keeping any secrets? And Watts probably felt quite clever. He was fooling Shannan, and by extension her friends. He had her Facebook under control, certainly for now, and he had also managed to fool his mistress. He was getting quite good at this, he must have been thinking. Well, I'm not going to take it further than this. Enjoy your weekend and look out for upcoming analysis on the Idaho 4 crime scene. I'll be dealing with that in an episode tomorrow. That's on Sunday. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.